Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, Mr. Derek Crager. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good, Tyler. How about yourself?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for coming on. You are calling in from, or you're joining us from Indianapolis, Indiana. And sorry, guys, we've already done the mandatory. Tyler loves to ask about the weather chat, so it's a little wintry there, but not too bad. So we're gonna park it. We got connected online. I think you yourself or someone on your team reached out, and I was really curious, as I often am, as I got digging into your LinkedIn and some of the work you're doing. Your organization that you represent, which I believe that you founded and created, is called Practical AI. So before we go any further, and I pretend to describe who you are and how you showed up, let us into the tent. What is a practical AI, Derek? And let's go from there.
Well, pardon me. I strongly believe that words have meaning. So named my company, about what I pursue, something that's practical. So AI that's practical. There's so much headlines out there. And I'm sure you're aware that, AI is the devil or AI is the savior. And, really it's somewhere in between. And it's really just a tool that could be utilized in either direction. But I believe in putting together, get this, practical application of artificial intelligence.
So just to play, in the scenario of devil versus savior or saint, devil versus deity, when you hear devil or, oh my God, AI is going to kill us all, or AI is going to be the answer for us all, what do you think about? Like, let's set the guardrails up, and then we're going to go land back in the middle where I know you live.
Well, I look at it. It's change management at its core, and I've taught the corporations and things, and change management is something that we introduce on how to handle. Well, get this, anything that changes. So. Specifically, I think the most, applicable scenario is when the internet itself first came around in 1989. It really wasn't until 2006 when the entire world jumped on board, because that's when our mobile phones had internet access and browsers, which is a good complement to get out there and buy some weird stuff that we don't even need. So that was
it became too easy. It became too easy.
It did. It became too easy.
All the friction went away. All the friction.
Yeah, ease is a thing. If we remove barriers, things become easy. So right now, AI is a little uneasy, I guess you could say. It is something new, and I look at everything that's new as a pendulum. We have the pendulum. It starts from one side and it swings. And it says, hey, it's something new. It's incredible. It's awesome. And then it gets to the far side and it's, oh no, that's just bad. Look at all the bad stuff. But as a pendulum swings back and forth, pretty soon it sets in the center. And for those listeners out there, I'm swinging my finger like a pendulum right now in front of my face. Yeah,
I thought the visual carried itself, but I think it's interesting because you're right. Everything will reach a certain homeostasis once kind of inertia runs its course. But in this case, you've got someone pushing from each side right now, and they're kicking it hard. It's like when you got someone on a tube and you've got two people on a rope. A rope is hanging from a tree. There's a tube tied to the end. You put your 5-year-old nephew in it, and you and your buddy stand on either side, and you push. And does he ever settle out? No, because you're always amping up the good, the bad narrative. And I feel like we're right in the middle of a out of control tire swing ride right now. Sorry to play on your pendulum metaphor.
No, hey, I want to expand on that. So yeah, you got your two cousins pushing your nephew there.
Yep.
They're pushing back and forth. Good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad, until they get tired, right? And what happens when they get tired? That tube, falls to the center, that equilibrium, and now it's just yeah, okay, it really wasn't that bad. Well, it really isn't going to save everything, but it's a good thing. And yeah,
but there's a period of time when each cousin is trying to outdo the other one, where that kid in the middle becomes irrelevant, actually, and it's just who's kicking the tube harder right before they run out of enthusiasm. I think if I'm really thinking back to Grandma's tire swing and my cousins and I, and it was always somebody small, younger that got in the tube. Just sheer because of ignorance. They didn't know what they were signing on to.
Well, and that's where we're at today, right?
Yeah.
People jump in and they have a good experience or a bad experience, and it's their first experience. So they don't know if they're getting into something good or bad. And that first experience generally, foreshadows their future experience. Mm-hmm. So it's not until they've had continued experience one way or the other that they can really understand it and accept it for what it is.
And there was a degree of excitement. I love that you use the internet. I read an article a while back now, and it stuck with me. It triggered me when you brought it up. The origins of the internet were DARPA, which was, the Pentagon's essentially research arm that did a lot of nefarious things, from Agent Orange right up to hunter-killer robots. But they also developed that as a communication protocol in the military. And what I did read, they said, well, the difference between when the internet came to be versus AI is there was a lot of regulatory, there was a lot of safety, there was, HTTP, there was a lot of security protocol put in place before it ever got released into the wild, where it felt like, although if you read the AI journey, this has been going on like for generations, building on each other on the backs of genius. And then finally it hits this critical mass. But when ChatGPT released to the world in whatever, I think it was November 21, all of a sudden, it just felt like a bit of a free-for-all because it didn't have the same checks and measures from a security perspective that maybe the internet did in its early days. And I've never seen that again. It was just an article. You read an article in a moment of time, and you're like, okay, I see where it's similar, but also a little bit different. I don't know, any perspective on that? I went really hyper specific with that example.
Well, hey, Tyler, you've got a little salt and pepper in your hair. So, 1989 really wasn't that long ago. And,
no, it wasn't.
And I think this continues our storyline about, devil versus savior here, because, DARPA was an origin, platform. But, look, I think it was CERN, if I remember correctly, that actually wrote the first hypertext to connect and exchange.
To allow it to communicate.
The beginning of the browser, yeah. So, here we are today. There's the good and the bad in everything, and we're just going to use it like we're going to use it.
And on your journey, so I'm looking at your LinkedIn, currently my source of truth. You've been you established practically, according to LinkedIn, 1 year and 2 months ago. So talk to me a little bit about, like, you and I chatted before. We did our pre-chat around some of your background of getting involved in the internet in the early days, but also being in a world of. And I read a little bit of a bio this morning, but somewhere really talked about the lack of knowledge transfer and the challenge of when that person who was the keeper of the knowledge inside an organization retires and takes all that knowledge with them. I hear practical, I hear a counter to that challenge or that brain drain that I think is happening across almost every industry right now, especially legacy industries.
Yeah, that's true. And AI, or artificial intelligence today, I look at it, and the conversations have been swinging this way. AI is really just a fancy search tool. We have google.com. You go there, you type in something, and that was our single source of truth, right, for quite a long time. And here we are with AI today. Does AI actually do anything new? Well, it's not sentient, and it probably won't be for a minute. But it really is just searching the internet for answers for what we're doing. Looking back, just a brief history of my time here on Earth, I found out that looking back in the first 5 decades of my life, if I had the answers, if I had the knowledge, I could finish, I could accomplish, I could succeed. And I spent my time at Amazon, which was my last corporate role. And I built Amazon's highest rated employee training program in company history, which is a big feather in my cap.
Awesome.
And so I'm looking at both of those. And the success I had at Amazon was that I connected that knowledge. Knowledge is power mantra that's been around for a long time. And I connected that to make sure that the employees that went through my program had access to the knowledge that they needed when they needed it. So the practical AI comes in. My leadship. Wow, there's a word. Hey, edit that out, Tyler.
Derek, you can make up your own. I'm a marketer. I love made up words.
Okay,
that was very infotaining, another made-up word by the marketing world.
There you go. Until it's adopted by Encyclopedia Britannica and the dictionaries that are out there.
Or at least the Urban Dictionary for the cross stuff.
So I started Practical AI, and our flagship program is Pocket Mentor. So let's pull that Pocket Mentor out. And Pocket Mentor means it just resides on your phone. You can make a phone call and call your best friend. Who wants to be a millionaire made popular the line, let me phone a friend. So that's what we do here. We use AI not to think for the person, but to think with the person, just like a true mentor would. And a true mentor, just as an example, will ask as many questions as it gives answers. So it makes sure that the user is thinking. That's what a mentor does. The protege role is to make sure they're thinking through so they actually truly understand it. So now you mentioned about the, there's a brain drain. There's especially in manufacturing and industrial roles, we have a big exodus. It's really already started. And this exodus is taking out this institutional knowledge, this tribal knowledge, this tacit knowledge. I think Toyota calls this knowledge, what is it? The hidden factory. And
interesting.
It's
which really
the knowledge
explains their up and in model of why they keep people and move them around rather than lose them, because they value that so highly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. I think we would hopefully do that today. If and when AI comes in to sack your job, let's reskill you instead of taking you away. But yeah, thank you for that explanation. I'm going to start injecting that in my future stories of the Toyota hidden factory. So yeah, when this knowledge walks out the door, what's the company do? And if we go back far enough, we have this thing called the Dark Ages. And I know that's like an extreme, but the Dark Ages, a lot of what happened was that the people with the knowledge, it didn't get passed on. They died. The knowledge zeroed out, and it took us 500, 600, 700 years to get back to the point where they were back then. So if that happens to a company, to an enterprise that's out there, and their knowledge walks out the door, the first role is, they're going to have to pay huge sums of money to return that knowledge to its fold. And that's if that knowledge still exists. And if it doesn't exist, they have to create it somehow. And there's going to be a lot of pain. So the better way to handle this, and this is what my solution does, you pull out a Pocket Mentor and you hand it to your best employee. And you just have them wear it, a microphone for a day, and they're walking around and they just talk through their work. And whether it's white collar work or blue collar work, and they say, you start here, you go there, A, B, C, tab A into slot A type of thing. And it's documented. So we use this to document this tribal knowledge, this tacit knowledge, all those fancy terms for it. And it adds to the SOPs, the mission and vision statements that companies have, the role descriptions. And it allows an employee to, as they're walking around doing their work, they have this gap in their brain. It says, I just need that one piece of information. I could walk all the way to my locker, to my desk, to the other facility, and grab that information, come back here, and maybe an hour or 2 or 3 hours later, I will continue doing what I was doing. Or I can just tap my earbud and I'll say, hey, Pocket Mentor, you've done this before. Talk me through that. What's step 3 of this again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. And then they continue about their days. So we're empowering the worker with actual empowerment, making sure that they never feel alone and that the knowledge that they need is always literally in their ear with just a finger tap.
I love the with, not for, the think with you, not for you. Some of the things that really stood out into what you said. And I always, and I know it's digital, but I always imagine the shelf full of dusty binders with SOPs written with good intentions that are buried somewhere in an office. Just because they're digital doesn't make them any easier or less dusty to access sometimes, in my opinion. They're buried on a server somewhere, internal or otherwise. And you're right, I'm in the middle of my day. I just need this little thing to move forward. I don't need to pause, go all the way, because what happens is you don't. Then you skip. Something else you said that really I've been pondering a little bit lately, like there's such a bit of a myth that just because something is known, it will continue to be known. Knowledge is lost. And a lot of that, I think the Dark Ages was a fabulous example. Like, we've got everything, it's always available. But yet there is stuff that gets lost in time and doesn't get passed on. And I think organizations are suffering from it. And you see it, especially with manufacturing, because I feel like everyone I've talked to in the sector, they're like, it's just a lot of young folks, to use that term, as we both talk about a little bit of our gray hairs, aren't necessarily getting into those careers in the same way. And if they do, who's mentoring, who's converting, like that apprenticeship style approach just isn't taken as seriously, which is where I love where you've brought technology in to fill that gap. Because what was it before? 7 years to be an apprentice, and it's not like to be a cabinet maker. Like, it was a significant period of time when you just watched and observed and cleaned up the shop, to be very formal about it. And nobody has that kind of time or patience and profitability from an organizational perspective. We need it to be overnight, but that's just not how the brain necessarily works either.
Well, and there's 2 angles to that. One, if we go back 100, 125 years or more, apprenticeships were 20 years long.
Yeah.
So you would apprentice with a good journeyman, stick with them for 20 years. By that time, they felt you learned the minimum of what you needed to know.
The minimum after 20 years.
Yeah. Today, we are very structured in our training. So apprenticeships are on average 4 years for trades. And some of them go 3, some of them go 5 or 6. But that 4-year mark, they figure that you're going to get to know the minimum what you need to know. And information is more readily available today than it was 100 plus
human
years
to
ago.
human transfer was the only way 150 years ago, where now we have multiple. And what you're evolving is another way yet again.
Yeah, you mentioned human to human transfer. I tell people our AI technology is 50,000 years old because it works just like the original mentoring did and storytelling did, in caveman days. It's, person A with the knowledge tells person B, and now they recite it, they practice it, and they tell it to person C. And that's how we work. The best interface a human has is another human conversation. And that could be a true human, or it could be AI with the voice of a human acting as a proxy. And the neat thing about using AI is that it's scalable. Mm-hmm. I don't have to wake Tyler up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday and say, hey, dude, hey, brother, you've done this before. Talk me through it. And you're going to go like, what?
I'm on my day off, man. Get off my case, bro. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Exactly there.
And that ability to scale. You mentioned a comment when AI comes to sack your job. Is that being overblown right now? Or is this just the calm before the storm? Or is it just the fear? Back to we were playing with our guardrails of the savior versus the devil. The sack your job, because a lot of the rhetoric I'm seeing and a lot of people I know go, did Amazon really replace all those jobs with AI, or did they just overhire and then scale back like most tech companies tend to do? And AI is a really, really convenient scapegoat. Where's the truth in the middle of that from what you're seeing?
Well, the truth is that AI is a tool, and we can use it, for humanity or against humanity. And we are at a dividing point right now. We are at a fork in the road. I mean, I believe in this so much. I've written a book that's going to be out later this year called Human First AI.
Love it.
And I give 2 narratives. There's the narrative that, AI has replaced us and it's just doing everything the same way every day. And down that path, there's nothing new. There's nothing created. The Teslas, the Einsteins, the Galileos, they don't get to stick their head out because they're unemployed somewhere.
Yeah.
But the alternative to that route is augmenting human intelligence with AI in the manner that I do with Pocket Mentor. Empower the individual human to be better than they are, but you're going to retain with the human the ability to think outside the box. So yeah, we're at a decision point and companies are going down both routes, but it's really heavily into the let's replace humans because it's good for our bottom line. The bean counters look in there and say, hey, it'll improve our ROI. But, that's great for the first 1, 2, 3 years. Yeah, your profits are going to soar. But what happens, 3 years from now, you need to create something new and you've lost that human creative passion, drive, curiosity, that neurodiversity that is talked about so much. If you lose the ability to think outside the box, and you do that with AI, because by definition, AI is a box that we access.
That's arguably not creating anything new. It's regurgitating what has been known, to your point earlier about even why Pocket Mentor, we're not creating a new solution. We're just tapping into this intellectual capital, this knowledge, this wealth of information that the last 30 years, 10 years, 5 years of our organization has been built on, that these individuals take home in their mind, in their head. Like, was it your most valuable asset goes home every night and you just hope they come back the next day? I think that's a Sam Walton quote, but I might be bastardizing that. Almost guaranteed I am. You mentioned neurodivergent and diversity of thought, and we're looking for different perspectives. And one of my key buzzwords, curiosity, which I think is inherently a superpower for humans that might even become more powerful as what is known shows up. But how do I take what is known and then go, hey, you know what? I've got a crazy idea. AI isn't doing that in that same way. I know yourself, you've been on a journey, late diagnosed, as I see it just reading in one of your bios here, autistic and ADHD, professional who spent a lifetime misunderstood. Is this an opportunity for individuals with those diverse backgrounds, those diverse ways of looking at problems, looking at information, interacting with other humans? Is AI, is that a superpower tool for people that think about things differently? Or maybe in a different way? So many ways I can say that.
Well, it is a superpower tool, and if we look at those people I referred to earlier, the Teslas, the Einsteins, the Galileos, the Pascals, they had time on their hands, right? They were thinkers. They had time to think. So if we leverage AI to give us the information when we need it, we can solve and resolve our situations more quickly, which will allow us in just a typical 8-hour day to have time on our side where we can actually apply our brain power. Why did we get hired? We got hired for our brain power. We didn't get hired, majority of us, right? Did not get hired to do just manual task each day. And even in manual task in a production environment, Henry Ford has everybody lining up with their specific role. And then we zoom to today with Toyota, and we talk about the hidden factory. Toyota is all over that lean Six Sigma.
Yeah.
Let's do things in a certain way. Let's document. But it's the humans that add the firepower. It's humans that remove the bottlenecks. And AI only works with data. Humans deal with everything. And my time at Amazon, I'll reference Jeff Bezos here. Jeff Bezos is quoted as saying, when the anecdote does not match the data is probably wrong. So the human can figure that out, and you figure out why it's wrong. Maybe you're measuring it wrong, but there's always that, we got to improve. But the only way to improve that is through that human intervention. So we need to keep the human in the loop. We can use AI to reduce our labor, but that benefits us because now our brain has the ability to think and do the things that our company had hired us to do.
And is that also a call to action or a call to arms for individuals that maybe just want to show up and punch a time clock? I'm being really polarizing with the way I'm asking that question on purpose, because it really behooves you to then go, oh, I forgot a little extra bandwidth. What am I going to think about? Oh, I didn't show up to think today. I just showed up to put a bolt in a hole. I'm being very binary with this statement, but it does, because there is often a talk about the left behind generation. Who's going to get left behind with technology? Who's not going to have that digital level of citizenship? Versus, I know so many individuals that I tend to circulate with that they're just hungry for learning. They're so curious. It's almost obnoxious. I put myself in that list. You give them repetitive tasks, they will find a way to outsource that thing as fast as they can, because it proves no value to them. It doesn't feed their soul. And I'm saying that there may be some individuals out there that are like, no, I just want to show up. I got a few years left in my career. I just kind of want to coast it through. Is this really a call to arms or a non-negotiable for everyone from a humanity perspective to embrace this? Because you're like it's out of the box, right? the Pandora's box is open, fully open.
Well, let's look at this at the perspective that companies are facing today. We have this generational knowledge, and we have generational workers on our perspective and attitude on how we work. And a big issue today, companies call it a problem when they don't have a solution, and that is, what are we going to do with Gen Xers, Gen Zers, Gen Zers and millennials? Because they look at work in a different manner. They don't have that loyalty that the greatest generation that ever lived had. They don't want a job where they punch a time clock for 30 or 40 years and then they retire. They're happy to move around. So there's this perspective that there's lack of loyalty to the company. And for that matter, there is, because they put more value in their own mind. So if we give them, and they're used to technology, they grew up with technology, the Gen Z and the millennials. So they like to have technology around. So if we use technology to leverage their learning style, because it's research has shown that the millennials and Gen Z learn more intermittently. Microbytes type of thing. And there was a thing called micro learning that hit the training dashboards, about 5 years ago. It kind of came and went. They were onto something there. Micro learning is great, but the traditional LMS micro learning takes you away from your job and puts you at a desk, and you have to push buttons and watch videos. With AI assisting, empowering Pocket Mentor to have a conversation with the user, it really invites the Gen Zs and millennials to say, hey, I like the way they use this tool. I like talking to a machine more than I do another human. That's another thing. If we look at the proliferation of SMS texting on mobile phones versus voice calls, that's indicative that the younger generations, they don't like to communicate with other humans voice if they don't have to. They shy away from it. So part of that is what puts pressure and anxiety on these younger generations in a traditional job role is that, I kind of know what this is, but I could ask about it, but that involves talking to another human. Or the flip side of that coin, I'm not going to ask, I'm just going to do it this way. And maybe they do it wrong. So now that's a reason for this other human to come talk to them. And it just creates this pressure. There's this, I think it was the New England Journal of Psychology has research that shows that the younger generations prefers to speak to a computer before and above speaking to a human because of one thing. When they speak to a human, they feel like they're being judged. And hey, I'm human, you're human. They're probably being judged at some fat. But the neat thing about AI in this role as a mentor, we can download Tyler Chisholm's brain, put it in a box, access it through AI conversation, and I could talk to your brain in a box at 2 a.m. on a Saturday so I don't wake you up.
Appreciate
so I'm scaling your knowledge. You're welcome. I'm scaling your knowledge, and I'm getting the information that you would normally deliver. And I don't have to worry about Tyler being grumpy. I don't have to worry about Tyler have a short fuse, because the AI version of Tyler is programmably supportive, patient, jovial, 24/7, 365.
Derek, I feel we need to slip a little reality in there. Like I can't be angelic all the time. It's not realistic. Isn't that the Matrix? Wouldn't the mind reject it as just not being credible, being too good? we have to put some pain and suffering in there to make it believable.
Well, I'll put that on the docket and see what we come up with.
How much can I just have like a 2 out of 10 douchebag factor? Not a 9 out of 10. Like I want to dial it way back. Like I want it to. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. Too many random pop culture references. So many movies that got so many of these little nuances that we joke about now. Really, right? You're like, oh, really? The brain rejects it if it's too perfect. What makes it so? It's really more, and I hear the word coaching show up so prevalently. I'm comfortable with non-voice communication. I'm much more. I feel safer because it just has psychological safety and emotional intelligence. I feel safer interacting not one-on-one. So I'm using Pocket Mentor. It's a voice in my ear. It's very safe. There's literally no dumb questions because I can ask it whatever I want, and no matter how I perceive the question, it's a safe environment for me to play in. When you talk to organizations about this, where's the pushback? What are the objections? Where do people go, oh, I don't know. Sounds pretty fishy, Derek. Sounds too good to be true. I don't know. Like what? I'm putting my sales and marketing hat on because it sounds great. I listen to you talk. I'm like, this makes so much sense. And the nuances of these certain generations and how they like to consume information. And again, it's not that they're good or bad or different. They're just, they consume information in a different way. That's their preference. Where's the pushback come when you're standing in front of the board and they're like, okay, Derek, convince us why this is a good idea?
It's the fear of the unknown. It's
all the way back to change. All the way back to change.
It is, yeah. It's what if? What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that?
Yeah.
And it's you spoke about the connection, with the human. Can I make you a 2 out of 10? Yada yada. And there's
my words.
Your words. So if we look at the way people learn or gather information, back in the day, it was one size fits all is what we're looking for. What is that one size fits all solution? And we lived with that for 100 years or so, knowledge-wise, from the town.
Put them in the
crier
classroom,
on the
teach them
street.
to read, so they'll be better soldiers and better industry production line workers.
Yeah, there you go.
Some of the origin of that stuff, right?
Yeah, you're following here. So today we're at the one size fits one mentality, and that's great. Where we take this single source of truth in this box. We let humans converse one-on-one, just like a mentor-protege would in real life. This is still a mentor-protege that can, they have a safe space to talk, and the conversation models after the individual. So I call it neuroagnostic to kind of, take this technology term and apply it to our brain power here. Neuroagnostic, meaning that, yes, it supports the neurodiverse community, but it also supports the, normal
I know,
that are out
totally.
there.
I totally.
But the thing is that even those of us that classify ourselves or others classify us in the normal realm of our cognitive ability and personality, we're all different. We know that. We've learned that. It's what we are taught in leadership and communications instruction. So let's take that to the nth degree. And Pocket Mentor will align with that individual and improve its conversation really at beginning with the very first phrase. So that initial conversation gets more in tune and alignment with the individual to support that person in their time of need with what they need. And it's being said in a way that is receptive to the person that's listening.
One size fits one. I'm on a panel discussion tomorrow. I'm moderating around predictive healthcare versus sick care, and I love the one size fits one. So I will be using that on stage in front of a room tomorrow, Derek, and I'll give you credit for after. Like a recent acquaintance of mine used this. It was a fabulous quote, and because the one size fits all also applies to our healthcare system. It feels like it could be personalized, but ultimately not to the degree if you're using actually predictive technology. So many questions I have to ask. So an organization says, I want to do this. I want to put it in. How do you pick who gets to be the speaker of truth? And how do they get vetted? Because there's what's written in SOPs, and then there's what Frank or Jane really do on a Tuesday when they walk the floor. And sometimes that true knowledge is like, well, it's, I think all of us have worked at a job where it's like, oh, hey, I know what they told you when you got onboarded, but this is how things really work around here. This is how we really get this done. How do you manage that potential gap, potential delta in terms of like, well, this is the way leadership, Ivory Tower, says that we run the floor. But Derek, the manager from 25 years goes, actually, no, this is how we run the floor. This is how this actually works. How do you balance that out?
Yeah, certainly. Do you remember the question, how do you eat an elephant? What's the answer to that?
One bite at a time, or invite your friends?
Absolutely. So we do the same thing. We start small. Now imagine that we're going to identify or have the company identify their biggest pain point. Right? Let's get rid of your biggest pain point. And then once that's resolved, your next biggest pain point,
tackle the friction,
et cetera, ad infinitum, right? So we start small. And the way that we train this technology is the exact same way we train the trainer. Any course, any training that's out there, if you would train the trainer in a certain way, you would say, this is how I want you to do it. So follow this pattern, A, B, C, D, question, A, B, C, D, question. That's the pattern I want you to go. Now, after that trainer is trained, right, there's certification for trainers for all types of courses that are out there. We actually monitor that trainer in real life, human to human. We monitor and see how they interact. So we do the same thing with Pocket Mentor. All we're doing is training the trainer, but in this case, it's a box with that information. And as we move forward, if you have a trainer that's been with you, 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, and you say, hey, either the training has changed, so I want you to adapt, or maybe it's like, you're doing this one thing, it's rare, but when it happens, I'd like you to not do it that way and do it this way. That's how you would have the conversation with that human. We do the same thing. It's through feedback and continued guidance. It's that keeping the human in the loop.
What's Pocket Mentor built on? What's the behind the scenes? Is it one of the more well-known LLMs? Because obviously you can just go in and go, hey, Pocket Mentor, want to give you an update. We really learned that this wasn't working. Please adjust protocol to fit this. But now, is it as easy as that?
Well,
and I don't want you to give away the secret sauce, Derek.
It's easy, Tyler.
I don't want you. It's so easy.
This is just so easy.
It's so easy. I'm using the word easy pretty loosely, apparently.
Yeah. Well, where we're at today is that nothing is created from ones and zeros anymore. We're all piggybacking on somebody else's knowledge. Whether it be Microsoft or Google or in today's world, we've got the different LLMs, whether it be Perplexity that actually leverages the OpenAI and the Anthropic. And then if you go to Hugging Face, that's a great search term. Your audience can find out, what is Hugging Face? Hugging Face is a host for over 1 million different LLMs, large language models, and SLMs, small language models. So to give you the ingredients, I got to tell you, it changes because we're always adapting whatever the best ingredient is for a specific solution. And the same way that Claude, leapfrogs Open AI's ChatGPT and vice versa, we monitor all that. So yeah, we use all of these tools that are out there. We leverage all the LLMs. We leverage all the automations out there. We leverage the cloud spaces, at Oracle and AWS and Google and Microsoft. Azure this is their cloud space. So we just leverage all this, and the way our system works is we do take your information, put it in a box, and we make sure it's private. We make sure it's secure. We make sure it's accessible only to the user and the company. And then those individual conversations, they're going to align with the company's privacy and security mandates. We have the neat thing here is that we don't even need to connect to the existing IT structures. So that keeps everything safe. And the fact that our interface is voice, there's no place where anybody can do a copy and paste because it's a conversation. It's like downloading Tyler Chisholm through this, 30-minute interaction. It's not going to happen. It's just going to be the use tool. So we follow all the standard protocols and the guidelines and the certification, minimums out there. And we leverage the tools that everybody else is leveraging right now. It's we're coming at this as it's really the back end of software and hardware combined. And our uniqueness here is that we do not require anybody to buy a $5,000 laptop, computer, tablet, or headset or VR set to utilize AI today. You can just pick up your phone, dial a number. You can go to grandma's house, and access a telephone that's, 80 years old, that's still hanging on the wall, shackled with copper, and dial a number, and you can get the same performance as you can with your mobile phone that you pull out of your pocket.
Oh, you just made it easy, made the accessibility easy. Because again, bandwidth, how competitive is this space? Because you mentioned VR, AR. I know a lot of different companies I've had interactions with where you put on the goggles and they'll walk you through, doing, I live in Alberta, so lots of oil and gas. So I've been through some extensive videos of how you would take a new tech, put them at a well site, say, okay, here's how you service a pump, put the goggles on, walk you through. I see that, but also high barrier, technology barrier, internet connectivity barrier. There's lots of factors. It's amazing. It's a very powerful experience when you do it. But when the rubber meets the road, I think there's been a lot of challenges, just picking on AR and VR, but I feel like it makes the space pretty noisy that you're playing in. Is that your perspective, or are you guys kind of slicing through because you've quote unquote made it easier to approach?
Well, we put a new spin on an existing problem or existing vertical here. If we look at the term work instruction covers, the how-tos, the steps, could even fall under onboarding and such. How do I perform my job? Work instruction has been an area that there's a lot of competitors out there, and the traditional method to solve for work instruction is, you mentioned those old dusty records sitting on a shelf. They digitize them and put them in a tablet or a laptop, and they say, hey, here you go. Take this on the job. So the competition is fierce for doing it the old way. We're coming in here as doing something the new way. So it's eyes available, hands-free access to, your best friend in the world. So I can have my headset on like you have, or my Bluetooth earbuds in, and I don't need to deviate from my inertia. I can just continue my day and move on. Whereas all of the other methods that I've found, and they tell you to stop what you're doing, take off your gloves and your PPE, and sit down and open up a tablet, and then you got to worry about do you have access to Wi-Fi where you're at, and you do or you don't. And our system is meant to augment everything else, whether it's traditional learning or those maps and blueprints that you have, but it's a new venture into it. So you ask if it's competitive. Yeah, the area itself is competitive, but we're bringing we're bringing a new voice perspective to this whole work instruction game.
Well done. I think there's a marketer buried in there somewhere, Derek. You're hitting some headlines. You're doing some made up words. I like it. I think you could have a career in marketing, but we'll talk about that after. It's interesting. I love that I had someone define to me that said so many companies are calling things innovation when they're just workflow improvements. You're not doing anything different you did before. You're just potentially maybe removing a step, making it a little bit easier. digitizing paper files, I would argue, isn't really being innovative at all. I don't even know if it's a workflow improvement. But what I'm hearing you do is something innovative that's so close to the way we always did it. We're just doing it in an innovative way that it feels like that adoption at first might be like, I'm not sure. And then within moments, it'll feel like the way you always did it, is the sense I'm getting, not to just blow smoke into the idea. But the second 5 minutes in, I'm forgetting I'm doing it a new way because it's just a voice in my ear. It's how I've been learning. Like you said, capitalizing on the way we've always done our apprenticeships.
Well, I like the way you said that, and that's the experience we want all of our customers to have. Is that it's there's no barrier. You're right. I feel like I've been doing this way my entire life, and it's through simplicity. It's through the practical application of artificial intelligence. And there's a couple examples in technology. One, I mentioned Google, right? Google removed all the distraction, and it ends up being the highest rated, search portal in history, at least up till this point. We're looking at using
currently
AI
still owning the space,
interface.
but changing every day for sure.
Right. And then if we look back at Amazon, the company I worked for about 8 years, is Amazon, when they started in 1995, they were just an also-ran company. Nobody cared about Amazon.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Jeff Bezos went to his software developers and said, hey, I want you to design an interface, right? This UI, this UX, this user experience. And I want you to allow my customers to make a purchase with one click. One click purchase. The developers laughed. No, seriously, why'd you bring us in your office today? No, that's what I want. So, okay, and they left. They came back, and it started out at 14 clicks. They brought it down to 8, and they say, hey, we made this great improvement. He goes, is it 1? No.
Still 7 too many. Still 7 too many.
Yeah. So they kept going back and forth until it got down to the one-click purchase. And it's that one-click purchase. That's the secret sauce to Amazon. If it wasn't, Amazon would be no bigger than any other online company in the world today. And the difference is now Amazon's market share. Market. Do you know what Amazon's market share is for consumers?
I don't actually. I've heard. No, I don't.
It's over 50%. Yeah. It's like, at least North America numbers are like 56, 58%. And because they remove barriers. So that's what we're looking to do today as well. Leveraging AI to remove those barriers to learning, to democratize knowledge, give you the knowledge that you need when you need it. And we're not going to force you to talk to a human, just their proxy.
Going all the way back to the beginning, if someone's listening and if they've made it 42 minutes and 31 seconds in, and they still think that AI is the devil, what would you say to them?
I would say maybe so. I would say, you have your opinion. Now my optimist here would say, just like everything in life, keep your mind open, be wary of what's out there, up to your ability to, handle pressure and anxiety and situations. But just look at history. Everything in history has been used for good or bad. How would you use it? If you could wave the magic wand, Tyler, how would you use AI to make your life better and while keeping you secure and safe?
Oh, what a great answer. Boom. You put a nice little bow on that, Derek. I very much appreciate it. If an organization is listening and they're like, hey, I'm curious, because if people leave an episode being curious and want to take a next step, then I know it was successful. How does someone reach out? Do you do a needs analysis? Do they just have a chat with you? Do they, go in, and I'm assuming there's some sit down and some understanding. How would someone get involved?
Well, you can Google my name and track me down. You can find our website at practicalai.app. And it just reach out and connect, ask a question. You referenced LinkedIn a few times, Tyler. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm a people person. I truly am. Even though I'm creating voices that are based on people, I truly am a people person. That's why I do it so well as we do here. Is having that perspective. So yeah, reach out, say hello, start a conversation, and if you want to have a phone call and go through the formal steps, we do that. And so we'll just sit down. We'll listen to your needs. We'll respond and walk you through the process. It's really that simple. No harm, no foul, no pain, No squeezing.
Make it easy. Make it easy. If someone was looking to learn a little bit more just about AI in general, just to increase their own knowledge, anything on your nightstand right now, might be digital or otherwise, but newsletters you follow or books that you recommend in terms of where you would recommend somebody to, aside from this podcast, obviously, dig in a little bit and go down their own learning journey?
Well, I've got a cool tool that I leverage. I'm holding up my phone right now so I can make sure I spell it correctly. But there's a Google development team that developed Notebook LM. And Notebook LM
great reference. Great reference.
Okay, you like that. So the original developers, they left and went out on their own, and they created a tool called Huxe, Huxe, or Huxey. I don't know how to spell it, to be honest.
But Huxe is the...
Huxe, yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Huxe, and they've taken the cool stuff from Notebook LM, and they have it integrated with your calendar, and you can email if you want, and you put in topics. And when you click it, it says, hey, here's your update for today. Here's your update for the night before bed. Here's your daily individual update. And it's not in your face. You just tap the button and it will talk you through anything that you want. So it's a way that I leverage AI to tell me more about AI. What's new today in the face of AI? And it's always a brand new conversation because it will wait up to the second you ask for that information. It's like a podcast on demand. So It's not here to take your job.
No. I like it.
It's formulating that one size fits one. And in that realm, it can teach you about AI through your earbuds and with no fear of being infected. It's because it's just an audio program.
I love it. That was a fabulous recommend. I am adding that to my to my watch list. That's fabulous. Derek, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being just showing up and having an honest conversation. We got down some pivots, some rabbit holes. We had some biblical references earlier on. It was a very diverse show. I appreciate the lost art of a good old fashioned conversation. I don't know where it was going to go, but I was confident it was going to go somewhere fun, and I was not disappointed.
Well, Tyler, this was fun, and we didn't talk about politics or religion after all, did we? So,
well, wait till we get off the air. That's when we're really going to rip the Band-Aid off for sure. I think we stayed right where we stayed right in the pocket, as they say.
Well, fantastic. Hey, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.